We're also joined today by the Edwardsville Community Foundation. Already, the foundation and other nonprofits have been on the ground at every step of the response this weekend, and for that I am truly grateful. I want to help spread the word. The foundation stands ready to help survivors of families and those out of work through the holidays and beyond. And I want to make sure that all of you know, and I would ask the media to let people know, that if they want to contribute to the efforts here online, they can contribute to edwardsvillecommunityfoundation.org. That's edwardsvillecommunityfoundation.org. 6 individuals clocked in on Friday, and they never came home. An additional person is still receiving medical treatment. We are ensuring that there is a full understanding of what happened to these individuals in their final moments. And while we cannot prevent natural disasters, we can strive to prevent future tragedies and ensure that all Illinoisans make it home safe at the end of their shift. Please join me in a moment of silence and a moment of prayer for the injured and for those who were lost in this terrible tragedy.
And during this moment of silence, we should point out a really important update here, that OSHA, the federal organization that oversees worker safety, has opened an investigation into that Amazon warehouse collapse in Edwardsville, Illinois, due to the tornado. OSHA has had compliance officers at the complex since Saturday, and they're providing assistance. They have 6 months to complete its investigation, issue citations, and propose monetary penalties. Let's go back to this briefing.
On Saturday, we activated our relief fund, and it is open and accepting gifts. As Governor Pritzker said, you can make your gift at edwardsvillecommunityfoundation.org. And we are working swiftly and diligently in our defined processes, to have a thoughtful and impactful and equitable response to meet the needs of our community at this tragic time. I do not have anything else to add. I'll hand it back to Governor Pritzker.
I'm happy to take any questions from members of the media. Yes, sir.
We're going to go ahead and move forward. President Biden's fixing to speak. They're fixing to interview him real quick about these natural catastrophes that continue to keep bombarding not only the American people, but the world. Please listen.
Homeland Security and FEMA officials, and here is what he said to the pool in the Oval Office.
And I asked for a detailed briefing of what they were able to see, what they found. And they shared with me what they learned, and we discussed how we can do more, especially for so many of the people who are facing immense loss. And we talked about how we can accelerate and expand federal assistance to those in desperate need. And we saw, I mean, some of you have been there and you've seen, even reporting on television, the devastation, before and after. And this is Mayfield, Kentucky. I mean, it's just devastating. And we've already approved an emergency declaration and a major disaster declaration for Kentucky. I've spoken with the governor several times thus far. And this gives me the tools to provide everything that we can from the federal level, from expert search and rescue teams to immediate and longer-term help with housing and clean up a whole range of things. And I stand ready to do the same for the governors of other states. As a matter of fact, I'm about to sign an emergency request from Illinois, the governor of Illinois, when I finish the trip and sign that. And we've also asked FEMA and the key departments to surge federal resources. The thing they most need are power, water, communication systems to get back to some sense of being able to communicate with one another as rapidly as they possibly can. And And as I said, I intend to travel to Kentucky on Wednesday. And with each passing day, the human impact of this devastation is just the depth of the losses are becoming more and more apparent. This is a town with a relatively low average income of under $20,000 a year. It's a town that has been wiped out, but it's not the only town. It's not the only town. That path you see moves all the way up well over 100 miles, and there's more than one route that goes. And so, we're also seeing destruction met with a lot of compassion, I'm told. Everywhere they've gone, they have people volunteering, talking, asking for that they not only get help, but how they can give some help. And so we continue to pray for everyone in Kentucky and the other states that are affected. And particularly my heart goes out to the governor of Kentucky, who's lost a family himself. It's pretty rough stuff. And but we're going to get this done. We're going to be there as long as it takes to help. And the combination of state, federal, and volunteer organizations do everything from eventually not only clear the debris, but provide the necessary means to move, get schools reopened, making sure that homes are able to be rebuilt, etc. So there's a lot that needs to be done. And it's mostly Kentucky here, but not only Kentucky. And so that's, I just want to let you know that's what I was doing. I haven't decided where I'm going yet. We're working on what I indicated to the governor when we talked about this 2 days ago, was that I don't want to be in the way. There's a lot going on. And when the president shows up, there's a long tail to follow, an awful lot of folks. And I just don't want to do anything other than be value added. But I want you to know that this administration has made it clear to every governor, whatever they need, when they need it. When they need it, make it known to me, and we'll get it to them as rapidly as we can. And that's what we're doing here in Kentucky. We're going to have to go beyond what is available to the federal government. For example, we're able to, FEMA can come up with up to $35,000 in housing restoration. Well, not a lot of $35,000 homes. In the meantime, we can provide everything from hotel rooms and places where folks can live in the meantime. But there's a lot to be done, and we're just getting it underway. But we're going to work with all the governors to make sure that we can. Yes.
Mr. President, what do you believe your own visit there can do for the people who are affected by this? And what is your concern about the longest term problems? Is it housing? What part of recovery do you worry about most?
Well, what I worry about most in a circumstance like this, because I've been involved in responding to a lot of disasters as a senator, as vice president, now as president just this year, is the peace of mind of people being able to actually put their head on a pillow, lie down on a bed, and be able to know their kids are going to be okay. And so with this is a narrow path. The devastation is just stunning. I mean, there's nothing left standing, basically, along the path that goes all the way through. You know, do you have that other, let me ask you, show that other, in terms of housing, because I think this is the best way to illustrate just how precise it is. You go to the one that goes all the way up, and this takes you. So, if you take a look, why don't you point out where we are here? You take a look where Mayfield and Bowling Green is. That's not, we're not talking about Mayfield now, but all these yellow dots here along the way are residences. And they've been wiped out. They've been wiped out. Commercial and government historical sites, and industrial sites, it's been wiped out. Would you mind putting one back up for Mayfield? If you take a look, Mayfield sits in that, where that square is on the left. Well, look at all, this is just the city of Mayfield. Residential, commercial, exempt, government and historical, agriculture, etc. Just, I mean, they're gone. Some of you probably already down here. It's just devastating. And so, and I worry, quite frankly, about, how can I say it, the mental health of these people. You come home and you see that, if you made it, and if you haven't, if you lost someone in the meantime, you know, thank God it doesn't seem like the numbers are quite as high as we anticipated, but they're high. You come home, you've lost your husband, wife, mother, father, children, somebody along the line. And what do you do? Where do you go? It's not like if you're making $16,000 a year, you know, get in a plane and head to your relative in, you know, Washington. But I'm being literal. That's what worries me most, the uncertainty. And it really is something that I've observed in every major disaster I've watched and been on the ground to see. It just is, you can see it in people's faces. And so we just want them to know that we're going to stay as long as it takes to help them. And there's 3 ways that we can help. One is the federal agencies that are available, and that's already underway. And for example, we're setting up in all these places. For example, they're going to be roughly, how many disaster centers do you think we'll have in the state?
All the major impacted counties.
There will be one place a citizen can go. There will be essentially an ombudsman. What I said to the governors, and it surprised me that they, it pleased me, but surprised me that they repeated it, is that, for example, I told the governor of Kentucky, I'm not expecting you to know all you need. Let us tell you what you can ask for that you haven't asked for. Let us do our job. I mean, these large government agencies like the federal or state governments, it's hard for people to understand sometimes. Let me go in and tell you what you can ask for. And so there is the federal government, the state government. There's also the nonprofits out there that have been, in fact, involved in all these disasters around the country, and they can provide help and assistance. Right now, for example, I'm told, I hope I'm not misspeaking, that the school in Mayfield is being used for shelter now. It didn't get wiped out, but it is not going to be able to be functioned as a school soon. So how do you get these kids back in schoolrooms? How do you get some semblance of normalcy again? And so we're working like the devil. I'm very, very pleased with the work that the FEMA director, Chris Full, has done, and I know that Homeland Security's reached out to these folks. They know we're there. And I just want to make sure there is no sense on the part of anyone in these affected areas that they are asking something that they shouldn't ask for. Ask for whatever you think you need, and we'll find out. And if you can't provide it through a government agency, we'll do our best to find out private agencies that can help. From churches to Red Cross to the whole range of institutions. But it's like when I was walking through the neighborhoods in Louisiana. I mean, you see the looks on people's faces. You go to the corner where the house is just gone. People standing in their yards crying. And this was 2 days after the storm went through. So it really is devastating. And this is the United States of America, though. The thing that pleased me was every one of my staff who were down there came back, at least today, called me on the phone and said, you know, people are already help each other. They're already asking, you know, how can I help too? So that's what I worry most about. It's just getting some peace of mind and say, look, there is a way to get from here to there. It's disaster now, but there's a way to get there. We're going to do everything we can. And I'm sure, I believe the Congress will respond if there's any extraordinary need we don't have. Yes, sir.
How much of a factor do you think that climate change was in this? And do you think that will be part of the argument you make to people like Senator Manchin about why the Build Back Better bill doesn't need to
No, I'm not going to make that argument with him about this. Look, Joe understands. Joe has as much empathy and concern for these folks. I mean, he's been through some real disasters in West Virginia. He understands. And the honest to God truth is, we're discussing this. I've spent a lot of time on climate issues. And I said we have to be very careful. We can't say with absolute certainty that it was because of climate change. So I'm going to be talking with the Environmental Protection Agency, and I'm going to be talking with other agencies to determine. In fact, matter of fact, some of it has to do with El Nino. There's a lot of things that we don't know for certain, and I don't want to say anything that is not precisely true. What is certain, it is one of the worst tornado disasters we've had in the country. And the second thing that's certain is that it is unusual. It is unusual how it happened, how many places it touched down, and the length of the path. So that's all I'm prepared to talk about right now. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is all happening in the middle of a pandemic. How are you thinking about will these places need more resources because they're also going to be dealing with, possibly rising cases, possibly hospitals getting overloaded, things of that nature?
Yes, we're gonna look. I have the entire federal team, not just the folks going in and making sure there's still people. We're not leaving anybody still breathing under debris. That's the immediate, urgent thing, and just to get the food, water to people who don't have it, and there's no place to get it. So that's number one. But number two, there's a whole range of things, including the virus, and the hospitals. I've gotten a report, but not the detail I need about the hospitals along the path of this tornado. But we're gonna have to. I'm sure I'm going to be asking my team to set up sites for booster shots and a whole range of things that people still. The worst part is their life has to go on as if nothing happened, because they've still got to take care of those needs, from their kid going to get in school to whether or not they're going to be able to collect an unemployment check, or they're going to be in this, all of those issues. But one of those issues will be public health as it relates to COVID.
Thank you.
I'll take this one first.
Mr. President, I think we'll share anything more about the message to Senator Manchin will be about why you would like him to agree to the back.
No, look, I told you, when I speak to senators or House members or governors or any other elected official to try to convince them that what I'm proposing makes sense and it's not inconsistent with what they believe, I do that and then I'll discuss it afterwards, okay? Thank you. Were any of you down here? Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll let you know when I'm going to learn.
All right, welcome to Meet the Press Daily. I'm Garrett Hake, in for Chuck Todd. We've been watching President Biden answer questions after he was briefed by his emergency response team in the Oval Office on the state of the federal response to those tornado disasters that just hammered Kentucky and several neighboring states. As you heard him there, the president said he will be visiting Kentucky on Wednesday and that the federal government would provide whatever assistance was needed in the region. We'll be speaking with FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell in just a moment. This comes in response to the unseasonably severe outbreak of tornadoes that struck this weekend, leaving more than 80 people dead and entire communities destroyed. The pictures of devastation are pretty much unreal. The downtown of Mayfield, Kentucky, basically flattened. The damage can be seen for hundreds of miles, neighboring Tennessee, Arkansas, even Illinois. And it could be weeks before the full extent of the damage and the loss of life is fully known. The death toll in Kentucky alone has now risen to at least 64, with more than 100 people still unaccounted for. This was the worst tornado outbreak in the Commonwealth's history, according to Governor Andy Beshear. He spoke emotionally this morning about those killed in this tragedy.
Just a few more facts about those we've lost. 18 are still unidentified. Of the ones that we know, the age range is 5 months to 86 years, and 6 are younger than 18.
That is so horrifyingly sad, tragic that has occurred But what's even more tragic, and I'm going to try to end this fairly quick if I can. I'm going to go out here while I'm talking, if you don't mind. What's even more tragic is the fact that the professionals, the experts, has basically let the American people down by not catching this quick enough and soon enough in regards towards this atmospheric changes that is going on throughout our country and throughout the planet. These are events that are now undeniable in every way that you can imagine, that now the big conglomerates, the mighty, the strong, the rich, the powerful, whatever category that you want to put them, cannot deny the fact of all these occurrences that continue to keep occurring again and again and again, are not only increasing in strength, but they're increasing as far as how many of them that we get when we get them. Kind of like the Katrina storm. That's kind of a monumental storm in comparison to all the other hurricanes. But scientists used to say that those storms originally didn't occur but about every 100 years. It was a 100-year storm. Or you'll hear somebody say something about a flood. Oh, it was a 500-year flood. Or it was a 1,000-year flood. These occurrences are now getting closer and closer together. And the Bible talks about these occurrences that's going to occur just as a woman travailing with a child. It talks about that. And if you've ever noticed a woman that's travailing with a child, her birth pains does not span further apart, but rather get closer and closer and closer together. That's what's occurring here towards God trying to awaken a group of people on a planet that he is very, very disappointed in. And he's showing his disappointment by promoting or putting out these sad events that, like right here on this cornerstone, we put in honoring those who have died illegitimately up onto this monument. It's very obvious now of the occurrences that continue to keep happening. And we don't hear our governor, our government, talk so much about the wickedness of man, other than they talk about the environment. Well, the carbon dioxide poisonings that we have been putting up into the atmosphere for quite some time. We know that China and other parts of the country are the world's worst whenever it comes to their smokestack industries that does this type of stuff. We know that. But yet now we cannot conform. I've been putting out my Christmas decorations. I'll put them out this week. We haven't conformed yet in convincing them of these hardcore facts that is and has and continue to keep escalating. Obviously, there's a communication problem with the governments of the planet called Earth. Obviously, there's a communication problem in them not coming together of the same conclusion towards what's actually occurring. I don't know if this is out of greed. I don't know if this is out of stupidity. I don't know if this is out of just being belligerent against one another. But we as a society are going to have to pull together. If not, these major occurrences are going to continue to escalate and grow worse and worse and closer together in the part of their distances. Why do I know this? Because the Bible talks about this. The Bible talks about this in detail towards what's going to occur and how it's going to occur if society does not turn from their wicked and demonic ways. It's pretty obvious that the people here in Northwest Tennessee, as much time as I spent with each and every one of these churches in putting out material, beginning in 1989, not just here in Weakley County, but the surrounding counties, basically from Middle Tennessee on over, and in addition to the work that we done up in other places like Knoxville, Nashville, Washington, D.C., New York, Queens, Harlem, etc., etc., etc. It's very obvious that the people in the beginning phases of this ministry either didn't believe the story that I was telling them about the holy angels coming down and placing a crown of thorns upon my head, or they didn't want to believe it. It's kind of like the difference of whenever you look and examine closely in how that the Pharisees and the Philistines and the Jews at the time that Jesus was with us was promoting the ideal that Jesus himself was a monster. They was constantly ridiculing him. They was constantly asking him questions, trying to flub him up. They was constantly trying to corner him. They was constantly trying to entrap him. And Jesus was constantly having to move and maneuver around these different events that was constant in his life up until the fact whenever they decided to actually have him assassinated, have him crucified. The people in that era didn't want to listen to Jesus, and because they didn't want to listen to the messenger bringing forth the message, they themselves was creating these fantasies or these ideals that Jesus was a monster, that Jesus was a monster, that Jesus was a monster. And that validated their reasoning towards having somewhat of a conscience to where they could sleep at night. That way they didn't feel guilty about what that they had just done to a complete, total, innocent human being. The exact same things is happening that did happen in his life towards people wanting to make him out to be a monster, people wanting to make him out to be a liar, people wanting to make him out to be nothing more than a scam artist of some sort. The exact same thing has happened in the Windmill Ministry's life for the past 30 plus years since the founder, which is myself, stepped out into the eyes of the public. It's not that I'm a cruel person. It's not that I'm a mean person. It's not that I want to see harm or hurt fall upon anybody's life in any form or fashion, because I don't. I would not be a Christian if I told you that these are the things that we wanted. But I will tell you this. In the eyes of the Heavenly Father, He works in degrees of first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree. He works in elevations that whenever He starts promoting or allowing for Satan to promote the I'm going to use the word punishment, or I'm going to use the word to loose Satan upon the society to the degree that God, the Heavenly Father, is no longer protecting us from the imperils that falls upon to humanity. God does not do that towards bringing the enchilada or allowing for the enchilada to come all at once during the first beginning phases of His reckoning. He does it in intervals. He does it in degrees, to where if the first degree don't work, it's like if this level of punishment or if this awakening didn't happen or didn't awaken the people, let's try this level of awakening. Well, if that level of awakening don't awaken the people, then He tries another level of awakening. And it keeps continually getting worse. But as it's continually getting worse, the span of it is also multiplying towards getting closer and closer and closer. Less than about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I told you that it will be 7 times 7 worser than what it was the year before and the year before that, increasing every time. You can look at the characteristics towards what happened with the Pharaohs, the Egyptians, with Moses, the liberator. It wasn't until the last final plague that fell upon to the people, or I say the last final plague, actually it was the second to the last final plague that fell upon to the people towards all the firstborn dying in that city. The last and final plague that fell upon to them was the plague of death, pertaining to the sea closing up and it basically drowning, give or take, about 95% of all of Pharaoh's Egyptian families and his military force. That's what ended that scenario that was going on during the time that it was going on. But if you'll analyze it very carefully, it fell in degrees. It got a little worse every time, little worse every time, little worse every time. And I'm sure, I can't say for sure, the time zone of those events that kept continually happening again and again and again, but I feel like that they kept happening closer together again and again and again until finally there towards the last, it was, you had the death of all the firstborn, and then within a matter of a day or two, then you had the death of the great flood whenever God separated the sea, and then the sea fell up onto the Egyptians, or to the Pharaohs. If we do not awaken towards what is going on and why it's going on, we are going to be subject of seeing more radical events that are not only getting worse, but getting closer together. And this, my friend, you can chisel it in stone, you can write it on the wall, you can put it on the bottom of the pyramids, towards what I'm telling you is going to occur. And because of the hard-headedness of man, just like it talks about in Revelations, that Satan is rising up in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short. Because of this is what is causing these matters to escalate and become more frequent. Yesterday, whenever I got out of my house, I'm going to end with this story. Yesterday, whenever I got out of my house, and I know this is going to sound abrupt and rude, and possibly even, I ain't going to use the word illegal, but it's going to sound very, very cold, callous towards what I'm fixing to say. But yesterday, whenever I woke up, I smelt an odor in the air that smelt like somebody that was burning something, or something that was on fire. And I looked around, I didn't see no smoke, nowhere around. So I'm thinking to myself, well, it must not be right here upon me. So I went ahead and started doing what I was doing. And it wasn't long until I heard a bunch of fire trucks down on Highway 89, give or take about a quarter of a mile from here, that went down one way and then they come back another way. But they wound up coming back over here on Beach Grove Road, parking down the road here. And I seen all the yellow lights and the red lights, and I knew that they was the first responders. I got in my vehicle, being curious, and drove down there and asked them, what's going on? They go, well, somebody called it in that there was a unfamiliar odor in the air of somebody burning something. And I looked at I don't know if it was the captain or who it was. I go, you mean to say y'all come all the way out from Sharon, Tennessee, over here, down here in the middle of the bottom, because somebody called you over a smell and not over actual fire? And he said, yeah, but usually where there's smoke, there's fire. He goes, besides that, we've sent some men down there in the woods looking to see if they can see anything on fire. And I told the people, as I was talking to them, I don't know their names, I probably should. I told them, I said, odds are it's still hunting season around here. Not only is it deer season, but also duck season, or I think it's still duck season. But you hear guns going off all the time, and those hunters have to get down into those areas some way or another. So I told them, I said, it smelt to me like a electrical fire, because an electrical fire has a distinct smell about it. And I said, odds are it was probably somebody's automobile or four-wheeler that something happened to it down there in the bottom, and that's what we're smelling up this way. I told him that just at a hit and lick blow, because I didn't want to sit there and debate towards what I really thought was occurring. The fact of the matter is, we've recently had a tornado that come in behind me, give or take about a mile, probably come in on the other side of the Obion River and took out a bunch of houses. The wind yesterday was blowing out of the south, just like it is right now. You can see the flag up there with the flag promoting that the wind is coming out of the south, going towards the north, going back towards this older model trailer right here, the one that's got the toy soldier on it. And I felt it out and listened to my heart, and I said, yeah, it's probably somebody that got a badly damaged home, a house, or maybe even a barn. And they know how the insurance companies are thieves, and they don't live up to their obligations towards their customer base. And they come out to a damaged home, and if there's even one wall standing, one wall, they'll prorate that wall the same thing like they prorate a battery or prorate a used part like a bearing or something like that at a salvage yard. They'll prorate it to the point of, instead of you getting the whole commitment of what the insurance company is supposed to be giving you to build back another home, to replace that home, they only give you a certain amount because they deduct over here and they deduct over here and they prorate over here and they prorate over here. Next thing you know, they've knocked off $15,000, $20,000 off the original price of what they should have gave you for, let's say, a $250,000 home or a $150,000 home. I've seen it again and again and again down there in Florida, how that they was gouging their own customer base. I exceptionally seen it down in Mississippi whenever the Congress and the senators allowed for those insurance companies to hoodoo, bamboozle those people in regards to Hurricane Katrina that basically created a 30 or a 40-foot wall of water like a tsunami, and the insurance company refused to pay on any of the claims down there, even though some of those people had policies that was probably 30, 40, 50 years old that had never turned in a claim. They refused to pay because they said you didn't have flood insurance. Well, you didn't have flood insurance, so we don't have to pay you. We don't have to pay you a dime. Here's $2,500. Take it as a nuisance settlement. Okay. You talk about a raw deal. It don't get no rawer than that. Oh, I thought it didn't. But whenever I went to Waverly, Tennessee, this past summer, whenever it got like 17 and a half inches of rain out of nowhere in a 24-hour period that flooded Waverly, while I was down there investigating the situation and the damage and talking to various individuals, I found out that even with people that had flood insurance, the insurance providers didn't want to provide their obligations to their customer base because it wasn't the right type of flood. In other words, it was a raging flood versus a calm, slow flood. Anything to bamboozle their own customer base. That way they can stick their money in their own pockets, and they can still continue to buy their yachts. They can buy property down in Florida. They can get their condominiums. They can get their big boats or sailboats. They can put their kids in college. They can do other things that will better themselves rather than bettering their customer base. Now, I want to say this, not all insurances operate this way. There are still a few insurance companies that don't want to swindle their own customer base, but by and large, the majority of them do. So it wouldn't have surprised me not one iota if somebody down on the other side of the bottom or over towards Kenton, where all this smell was coming from, actually caught their property on fire towards finishing it off, especially if they couldn't afford or couldn't get a backhoe to come out there and diminish or demolish the structure, due to the fact of how that the insurance companies come in and want to scam or bamboozle the individual out of money unless you got a total loss. In other words, if the house is burnt, there ain't nothing left, or if you bury it before they get there, then maybe you can get the claim that you knew that you was supposed to have gotten of paying out the prices that you have been paying for years and years and years towards this protection. What's driving people off into being dishonest? What's driving people off into doing things like this? The conglomerates, the rich man, the powerful man, the one percenters. People is wisening up towards what they're doing and how that they're doing it. These fat cats are continually getting fat. And the reason why they're getting fat is because they're using schemes, in how that they're going to bamboozle their customer base again and again and again. I'm going to end on that note. I'm going to continue to pray, and I hope that others will continue to pray. And if you got any extra money or any extra blankets or any extra anything, please remember the people who have been disrupted. Their lives have been disrupted, not only in the state of Kentucky, not only in the state of Arkansas and southern Illinois, but also in the state of Tennessee, also in the state of Mississippi. Various people that have got damages that will affect their lives the rest of their lives. Please, if you can help, even if it's just a quarter, a dollar, even if it's a used blanket or an old worn out lawnmower that you're fixing to disregard. Anything that you have extra, and I'm talking to myself because I got some extra things out here that I wouldn't mind donating to people pertaining to their needs, especially whenever you see your brother or your sister in this type of need. I truly believe that God will hold us accountable and he will judge us, including myself, of things that we could do for the hungry, for the demented, for the unfortunate, the things that we could do towards feeding the hungry and clothing the naked. I truly believe that God will hold us accountable for those things if we know that those things are going on around us and we still choose consciously not to help them people. And I realize, oh, well, they had insurance. Insurance is supposed to take care of everything, right? Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. But I have seen again and again and again, regardless whether it was Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, or even up here in Tennessee, how that the insurance companies take care of the insurance companies and could care less about their clientele, about their customer base. So please, if there's anybody out there that has a little extra of this or extra of that, please contact the local services, regardless whether it's Red Cross or whatever in that area, and please help out all that you can. We're asking, we're praying, we're begging, in a way, for common courtesy towards being a good Samaritan and trying to help people in a time of need. And the biggest thing is to help them during this psychological warfare that's going on pertaining to their mental health and pertaining to being able to witness to them and to give them uplifting, give them hope that everything beyond this life is a better life, according to the Bible, that I believe. I'm solely a sole believer in that. And that in our struggles, we will be rewarded ultimately in the end. And as long as there's breath, there's always hope. Thanks for listening. Good luck to all of us. And once more, we're getting so close to Christmas, I thought that I would throw this into my viewing base. Merry Christmas. Shalom. And good luck to all of us.